We have a problem, and it's not white supremacy. It's not nobody else but us. It's nobody but us. Are you coming on? And I don't, what the hell? It's always something. His Wi Fi is slow as hell. It really is us. I don't know how you guys feel about Jordan Neely, but even with that story narrative, I'm starting to see you see who's aligning with who's defending who. I'm starting to see, of course, white people protect their white brother, black people protecting their black brother. But also what it comes down to is social class, social economics. He was poor. He was homeless on and off. He had a mental illness issue, and that goes back to his childhood. Um, I don't. He probably did witness his mom being murdered by her abusive boyfriend, but he witnessed abuse in that relationship, and ultimately, the mother's boyfriend at the time murdered her and cut her body up and put in a suitcase. He was born and raised in Bayonne, New Jersey, around that area. So can you imagine as a kid that happening to your mother and seeing the things that was going on in that household? And then you had to testify in the court and then put in foster care. Where was the extended immediate family? You know, he slipped through the cracks. So he developed schizophrenia, anxiety, bipolar, depression. And only thing they're gonna do is pump him with medication. So you're going through a system being pumped with medication, no real stability. You're an adult in New York, of course, being a Michael Jackson impersonator, probably got tips and stuff like that. But if people are not regulating their medication, they're going to have spasms. Did he deserve to be put in a chokehold? No, especially after you had two grown big men pinning him down, and Jordan Neely was probably no more than 150 pounds, you know? So he didn't have to be put in the chokehold. Just pin him down and take him off the train and wait for police to come. But bigger than that, you're talking about homeless issue. You're talking about subway security. There have been a lot of incidents where innocent people have been attacked, murdered, assaulted on the subway. And it's been going on for decades, but it's been getting worse ever since COVID. What is the mayor doing? What is the DA doing? What is the strategy for the New York NYPD, New York Police Department? What are they doing? Why are you not having more officers patrolling the subway cars? Why there should be cameras and a panic button in each subway car. Cameras on the platform, security and police officers on the platform as well as in a subway car. So this is bigger than Jordan Neely. He's not the first person to die in New York City subway this year or be attacked. He won't be the last. And these are people who've been attacked and been murdered on New York City subway that have no mental illness issues, right? That were minding their own business. And they probably were attacked by a person who was mentally ill. But this mayor is focused on the illegals being bused to New York City. He opened up the door for them because you're a sanctuary city, and now you're complaining about it. But you won't do anything about safety. You won't do anything about the crime increase. I think New York City crime increased over 200% since they opened up from the COVID lockdown. So what is really going on here? But then people want to defend Daniel Penny. Oh, he lawyered up. He's from Long Island. I wonder what part of Long Island, because Long Island has a lot of racist areas. But he lawyered up, as he should. But there should be some type of charge. And I think I think I'm going to try and correlate Jordan Neely with Title 42. I think there can be a correlation there. Actually, let me call him and see what is going on exactly. Hold on for a second. All right, so he's not answering, so he's probably logging on. Geez, I wish he had better reception. I have been teaching, preaching this since MySpace. What if Blacks ain't designed to come together as bodies to unify, but as a collective conscious, Blacks created, not manufactured everything on this earth by thought and then speaking it just like God. So Dr. Michelle Lee, I'm probably saying your name wrong. I'm so sorry. You did request to come up. Invite the co-host. Okay. Okay, here comes the judge. I invited you to co-host. You can select that. Okay, you're co-host now. Hello, can you hear me?
Copy that, Roger.
Okay. I figured you was probably having it. I really didn't want to call, but I was like, let me just call just in case. I didn't want to knock you off, but so I figured you know, took you a minute to log on because the internet Wi-Fi. So yeah, hi. So, you know, Tuesday, Twitter space. So today, I put in a title: Can Black Americans achieve success together? Right. I think that's a good discussion to have, and I did put in hashtag Jordan Neely and hashtag Title 42. The Jordan Neely case is starting to die down. I don't know, are there still protesting in New York as of today, Tuesday? I know there was protesting over the weekend, but it's bigger than Jordan Neely because New York City especially that mayor, that mayor needs to do his job in making sure the subway systems are safe. And crime is just crazy in New York right now. Title 42, that was a COVID-19 policy.
Well, I want to say something. Okay. About that too. There's a bigger problem that is attendant upon mental health issues. If you've ever really had to deal with somebody that is crazy, you get a different perspective than everybody else gets. For example, people say, why don't you do that? It ain't his fault. Let him go. It ain't that big a deal. Now, the funny thing about it is, if you have a stalker, if you've ever had one, you know this to be true, but nobody gets it until they've had to be putting up with one or a crazy person. The police will tell you you cannot respond to a stalker or a crazy person, because even if you are very negative in your response, they are subconsciously receiving what they want, which is to be significant enough to get your attention. So even if you cuss them out, slap them across the face, what you wound up doing is you gave them what they want. So you have to ignore them. But it's kind of like you've got an animal that's roaming around your property that's a pest, and it's trying to kill your chickens or something, or eat up your shrubs, or dig holes in the ground, or poop all over the place. You can put up fences, but they can dig under the fences. You can't do anything to them, so you have to call the pound or animal control to do something about it, and maybe they can catch them and they can put them away. Now, maybe we can put crazy people in mental institutions, but 50 some years ago, when he was governor of California, Ronald Reagan said all of this was fake. It was too big an expense, and he started closing down mental health institutions in California. And then when that administration got in office that he was figurehead for, that one started closing down mental health centers, and that's been 43 years ago when that started, and we don't have them. So when we get somebody like the deceased and the subway thing, people don't get it, and they want to excuse the mental health issue until it gets to the point where somebody like that goes and shoots up a school, shoots up a hallway, shoots up a hood, does the drive-by thing, and then people want to do, well, maybe if we just got rid of guns, or maybe if we just got rid of that. And you see, what is missed out on is you don't need a gun to kill. You don't need a knife to kill. You can kill with your unarmed self. And that is the rub, because people don't get it, that there's sometimes no excuses. There just needs to be a solution. So you have a thing where somebody is over and over and over and over making it just a miserable experience for everybody else to be in their vicinity, and there's no way to avoid it because they come around when they choose, when it is inappropriate, in a fashion that is inappropriate, with no concern for the impact they have. It's what do you do? And sometimes things happen where they get out of hand, but they're fortuitous. And it's like one of those movies where something like that happens and everybody in the movie shakes their head and says, well, that's the end of that. And they go on about their business. But you see, I would submit that a lot of people would think that, but there are those who are always trying to be politically correct, who don't get it because they didn't have to endure it, or they're so inured to it that they assume it's normalcy. And perhaps one of the reasons is that they have those problems themselves without recognizing it. So it is a social problem that has not yet found a solution, or rather it has a solution, but it is now subject to vociferous attack from those who don't like the solutions. See, sometimes things can't be done by the formal government, by the people, but sometimes fortuitously occur when one of the people does it, even if that person gets in trouble. And sometimes we have a concept that we forget about, which is sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. When I was sentencing somebody and I saw that was a situation, I might cut the defendant a lot of slack, because I said, you did what you had to do, even if it was against the law. And there are cases where that happens. And I have had juries come back with questions during their deliberations. And the questions were either explicitly or essentially, Your Honor, if we feel the victim deserved killing, do we have to convict the defendant? And I had that happen on several occasions. I instructed them to continue their deliberations as truth and justice dictated, and as per the written instructions contained in the trial jacket. But that's a reality that we have to deal with. Now, I'll pass the mic on that.
And that was your summation of the Jordan Neely. I think you're looking at it from the bigger picture of it, I guess. That was what you were breaking down. And you're right. Not just, of course, nationwide, definitely in California, Ronald Reagan, when he cut a lot of money for mental health and those social programs. I grew up in East Orange, New Jersey, and that happened in the 80s. And, I didn't know as a kid because I was a kid in the 80s. But as I got older and learning about that and thinking back to that time, Yeah. He literally just opened up the insane asylum and said, okay, you just go home and figure it out yourself. Because there's no money to help treat you. And so what did they do? They went back to where they came from, which was majority, I'm just going to say this, Black, because at that time East Orange was a Black town during that time in the 80s. And this was also the beginning of the crack era. And I remember growing up, it was at least two serial killers that was floating around East Orange around that time and sprinkled into North. Mute up, Judge, please. Can you mute?
I thought I had. I'm muting
No.
again.
Okay. You're tap it and then you're untapping it. So you're really not muted right now. You're not muted. Okay, now you're muted. So I remember that. And so just going back to the time when Ronald Reagan issued that, when he cut all those mental health programs and money, all those people were able to walk out, right? No treatment. They weren't they didn't have anybody stand on top of them with their medicine or whatever. And crime went up. We had two serial killers, and this one particular man, he had an extensive mental health issue, murdered a childhood friend of mine that I grew up with. And the time that she was murdered, I was probably around 11, 12, 10, 11, or 12, around that time. And yeah, and he murdered several other females. So, and he would climb, and they were saying he was climbing through people windows, up fire escapes. It was crazy. So, and this was in East Orange, New Jersey, but this type of thing was happening across the nation. And that was devastating to the Black community because, when we talk about generational wealth, Black people even during their 80s, before crack hit, a lot of Black people, a lot of Black families were doing good. And then a crack era, and then you just see the decimation of our communities to where we no longer had communities. So this is when you was just talking about Ronald Reagan, that was what,
1980 now.
40 years.
But I'd have to say
Right.
this.
So that was
Hold
how
on.
many decades ago? And then wait, let me just say this. That was how many decades
Hold
ago?
on.
And then fast forward to
Yeah, but
today,
hold on.
there's
I
really
got to
been no
take
real
one
remedy.
couple of exceptions with what you're saying. When you're talking about you were a child, at the time this started happening, I was trying first degree murder cases as a defense lawyer. And I'd been around for a while. So up until 1979, 1980, I'd never seen this. I didn't know anybody that had seen this since the Depression back ended in the 1930s. Nobody, parents or anyone. And all of a sudden, between 1980 and when he got elected to 1981, something happened. And we started seeing homeless people. And it wasn't Black people, it was everybody out on the streets, laying on heating vents. I remember I went to Philadelphia with a client of mine, a businessman, and the feds were after him. We wound up working a deal where he testified before a grand jury up there. And we saw all of these people out in the freezing cold, sleeping on the vents where hot air was coming out. People were all over the place. Never seen that before since the Depression. And it was just astonishing. So I wouldn't say it's crack. I would say it was one of the worst scams run on the American public ever.
No, I didn't say it was
No,
crack.
I mean, but the crack thing came in.
No, I said that came
Yeah, but
later.
I know the time element because I'm representing people at this.
I'm just saying no. What I was
I'm going to
making
break.
was the court. Wait, let me just say this. What I was saying was with Ronald Reagan, what he did with the mental health programs, and on top of that, when the crack started coming in, so it was multiple things going on.
Well, here's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Crack hit when these other social pressures hit. I mean, I made good money in 1979, good money in 1980 after taxes, and thanks to some of the worst scams, trickle down economics that even George Herbert Walker Bush said was voodoo economics. We had a real problem develop in this country. I was astonished and extremely aggravated when in 1984, 1985, 86, I actually paid more in tax dollars than Boeing Aircraft did, more than North American Rockwell did, more than General Dynamics did, more than IBM did. And most Americans in the middle class paid more taxes in actual dollars. I'm not talking about a percentage than these mega corporations did. When we ran out of money, but the way that we got it in was because the Reagan administration took advantage of what Richard Nixon only could have done, and that was to reach a rapprochement with the People's Republic of China. And unbeknownst to the public, since the media wasn't covering it, is we started borrowing trillions of dollars from the People's Republic of China to make it so that these mega corporations would not have to pay taxes and we could operate our government and services accordingly. And some of those services had to fall under this scam, and a lot of them had to do with mental health. Crack came into the picture, and I saw it because I was representing people charged with street crimes when all of this started hitting the fan. I had people who were making good money, black and white, that were clients of mine. And what wound up happening is by 1982, they were living with their brother-in-laws in an old trailer that he had on some trailer park that he didn't stay in anymore. They were borrowing money. They'd lost their jobs. They'd lost the savings. Their mortgages were being foreclosed on. The children no longer had a college fund because the families had to exhaust that, and people that were doing well were flat broke, and everybody suffered. And that's when this mess started hitting the fan. 1981, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, and then we had a big mess where they started getting on this administration about arms for Contras, and Congress had passed specific laws forbidding that. And it turned out that the Reagan administration had 3 executive orders, secret executive orders that later came to light, directing over the president's signature, directing that these laws be ignored. That's impeachable and it's a crime. But then they said Reagan didn't do it. It was plausible deniability. They prosecuted Ollie North, who was scapegoated for that. They wound up having to set his conviction aside for procedural errors that kept him from getting a fair trial. Also dealing with the Fifth Amendment situation, same thing they threw at, Cosby prevailed on later. And it was a big live mess. And what it also did is resulted in a really misbegotten idea to get rid of bin Laden, so he couldn't tell, since he was the one that arranged the exchange of money for Stinger missiles to the Middle East and Afghanistan. So you made an implacable enemy who wound up doing 911. So things like this have a direct consequence. And we need to understand this. And right now we are understanding nothing because we've got the idea that everything's supposed to be as we want it to be and not necessarily as it really is. And we don't come up with effective solutions. Now, the effective solutions that we need more mental institutions, and we need people like that person on that subway to be in them. And we need people like that subway victim to not be tolerated. Because you see, you even expressed it. We've talked a few times the last week or so. This is the way they normally behave. That's inappropriate. It should not be allowed. And that we have devolved / degenerated to the point where we think this kind of social dysfunction is okay, is bad. We are going nowhere unless we correct that. And if we don't, somebody will do it for us. And I suspect it'll be the Chinese and Russians who won't tolerate it now while we do. And that'll put them where we were relative to Great Britain 100 years ago. So we can give it up. We'll be a little third-rate power where all of the former colonies or influenced parties are lording it over us, and we get to celebrate the king of what used to be one of the most powerful nation on the planet is now chief cheese in charge of nobody. So that's where we're
Well,
going.
well, I do disagree with you with that part when you said there should be more people like Daniel Penny, and and then people like a Jordan Neely should not be
They
tolerated. It's
shouldn't.
not about. Well, let me say what I gotta say first. It's not that they should not be tolerated. There's a lot of people who have no mental disability that should not be tolerated, but we tolerate them. The problem here is a societal thing going on to where, yeah, clearly he fell through the cracks. Clearly, this man was hungry or whatever. And when we're talking about policies, public policies, clearly New York City is a shithole right now because they're not doing their job to make sure that the subway stations are safe. They're not doing their job to make sure that you do have these programs when it comes to the mental health, that they're being properly monitored. So again, I'm not going to sit up here and say, people like him should not be tolerated, because if that's the case, it's a lot of people that we should easily be able to put in a goddamn chokehold.
Well, it happens. And by the way, the Constitution of the United States did not set up a government where they are supposed to take care of it for the people. What the Constitution set up was a government where the people take care of it themselves within limits, and the people themselves determine what those limits are, and the people themselves adjudicate what those limits are and whether they have been exceeded or not. And the police were an invention that took place quite a few years after the country was founded. It was something that developed in Great Britain from Scotland Yard or in Scotland Yard and got imported to the United States in the late 1830s and early 1840s in Boston and in New York. So the police that we look at as the solution to all of our problems are not by our constitutional form of government. We look to them as being the source of uh, safety. We look to them as being the source of solutions to our problems, and then we defund them and berate them when they take care of it. Because you see, you have a human animal that is the most vicious, violent, and destructive in the history of this planet. And when you take that kind of thing, like any kind of predator, they have problems when you have those that are outside of the social norm when it comes to appropriate behavior. So if you depend upon police or some kind of authoritarian agency to take care of that for you instead of the people doing it themselves, what you wind up getting is safety, but with political oppression. For example, Nazi Germany was probably the safest country in the world if you weren't Jewish or you weren't gypsy or you weren't somebody that was looked down on during the 1930s. There was very little crime, but the government itself committed a lot of crime. So if you want that, that's easy enough to get. If you want it right now, where all of the Facebook, Instagram, and such like that you see so commonly that are used to develop facial recognition algorithms and snoop on you through your smart television, smartphone, smart appliances. And we fear if you want them to become the norm, where they're regularly used in China, where they have what they call social profiling, where what you get to do as a citizen of China depends upon how well you support the regime. If you want to go there, we can. And China, by the way, is probably much lower than us when it comes to street criminality. So you want to go there? or not? I don't think we do. So one of the things we're going to have to get in our heads is that sometimes these things need to be dealt with in a different kind of fashion than some people are used to or want to accept. And what we have here is, did we have some third party involved in a situation where a breach of the public peace, dignity, and order that citizenry was entitled to stop immediately, not hold, not restrain, not take into custody, and cause to be held until it was safe to get them off the train, but were entitled to stop now, right now, immediately, and find that, well, shit happens.
Well,
We
let me
are
say this,
not going to prosper.
let me just add this, because I'm not saying, oh, it's the government job to take care of us. No, but my tax dollar says that it is your job to implement things to make sure it's my safety. The MTA, the people who control the MTA, you know, all that money I pay and the taxes that go into the MTA and the transportation, because New Yorkers, and specifically New York City, they're paying two sets of taxes: New York City taxes and state taxes. I'm paying for you to make sure that you're doing your job, and part of that is to make sure that the subways are decent and safe.
Wait a minute. Wait.
So it's not. So it's. I'm not asking the government to do something. Just, you know. But the fact is that I am paying taxes that do.
How do you?
Yes.
How do you reconcile that with the repeated decisions under various administrations? How do you square that with the Supreme Court holding over and over again in the country's history, quote, police have no obligation to protect the citizens unless the citizen is in their custody, unquote.
Okay,
how do you get around that? Because you see,
how do you get around that? Is the fact is that it's not so much you protecting me as a police officer, it's making sure nobody is committing a crime.
Well, the thing of it is you can do that now, but I don't think
so. In order for you to make sure nobody is committing a crime, you need to have your presence in a certain location that high crime is active.
You can't. You got a whole several million bunch of people in New York. They can't be everywhere unless you want as many
I'm
police
not saying
as
that.
you have.
This is why you have cameras.
Yeah, but
this is why you have a panic button. If you see, if you have cameras so you can see the crime happening.
Wait a minute,
you can have a panic button when a crime. Wait, let me just say this. Let me say this. This is why if they put a panic button inside the subway car, when somebody sees a crime happening, they press the panic button. They have cameras in the cars and on the platforms because they could see what crime took place. They don't have none of that.
Okay, look, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin had that down well, where they required that the citizens inform on each other, where they had massive surveillance engines staffed by massive numbers of people to snoop on the public. Do you want to give up more privacy than you have in the name of safety? That same give up would be turned into oppression. Do you really want to do that?
Well, the MTA, I do believe, is somewhat of a public sector, but we're talking about in the public.
The streets are public.
But we're talking about the public. So
yeah,
yes,
well, look,
I want more cameras.
I
want more cameras in the public, in public spaces.
Is peace, dignity, and order. Public peace, dignity, and order. Every indictment that you will ever see anywhere in any state in the United States reads, on or about such and such date, John Doe did against the public peace, dignity, and order of the state of X commit the following criminal offense. Every one of them. Now, that's what it's all about, and that's what we have here. We have a tolerance now that has become enormously expanded as to how much public peace, dignity, and order can be violated. Now, that means that if you're in the wrong place, you get used to the idea that we bed our grandchildren and great-grandchildren down in the bathtubs, old-time steel bathtubs with enamel around them, so that they're in a bulletproof encapsulation and they don't get hit by a drive-by, where the citizens are used to being disarmed because somebody might, who's a bad guy, get it anyway. It's a SOP because it doesn't work, because you're still dealing with teaching poor character, not developing appropriate character, preventing the development of appropriate character, and destroying the masculinity that this order comes from, and enforcing the order.
Well,
My generation is famous, as is the one behind us to an extent, bragging about how they got whipped by all of the neighbors on the way home when they got out of line. This is but the same thing, where the neighbors aren't exactly whipping you. The neighbors are whipping you, even if you're an adult, for getting too far out of line. They used to do that all the time. All the time. Now that's been started. So what we have is collateral damage on somebody doing what might have been, in a social context, not a bad thing. And from what I've been reading, it looks like, if anything, the death was accidental. And the main problem is the victim brought it on himself, but the victim wasn't himself, and we brought it on ourselves because we still allow this failed policy to remain in place, where we don't deal with the mental health issues that continue to haunt us by drive-bys, shoot 'em ups in the hood and the hallway, and lame little scapegoating things of saying it ain't our policy that keeps making this. It's these horrible weapons that enable what we've made to manifest, and that's wrong.
All right, so I want to reset the room. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Judge Joe Brown Twitter Space here every Tuesday. And as you all may know, and if you don't know, he's running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Please go and support. His website is jjb2023.com. His Cash App is $Judge Joe Brown 2023. So please go and support. Sign up to the mailing list. Donate as much as you can or as little as you can, doesn't matter, but just support. And please tweet out this space. Today's topic is, can Black Americans achieve success together? Hashtag Jordan Neely, hashtag Title 42. Me and the judge, well, mainly the judge, was just talking about the Jordan Neely situation from a broader aspect. And let me just also announce this, and this just came in. The jury finds Trump sexually abused writer E. Jean Carroll and awards her $5 million. So Donald Trump sexual abuse magazine writer E. Jean Carroll in the 1990s, and Donald Trump sexually abused magazine writer Miss Carroll in the 1990s, and then defamed her by branding her a liar. Jurors decided on Tuesday and awarded her $5 million in damages. The former U.S. president, campaigning to retake the White House in 2024, will appeal, said his spokesman, Steve Chung. Trump will not have to pay, so as long as the case is on appeal. Carol, who is 79, testified during the Silver trial that Trump, 76, raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman department store dressing room in Manhattan in either 1995 or 1996. I guess she couldn't remember the year. Maybe she's too old to remember, who knows. Then harmed her reputation by writing in an October 2022 post on his Truth Social platform that her claims were a complete con job, a hoax, and a lie. Honestly, I'm kind of siding with Donald Trump on this one, but the juries awarded her $5 million. Also, Title 42 is set to expire this week. And the question that I want to bring up with that, when we go into that topic, how does that affect Black America? Because that ties into this topic. Can Black Americans achieve success together? We do not work together. These illegals, when they come over here, they're linking up with the legal immigrants of their kind, Hispanics, Latinos, and they're building and working together. Each group in this nation is building and working together, except for Black Americans. That is a problem.
May I address that, since we can switch over to the topic? I agree with you. I think all kinds of things are
And if
wrong.
people want to request to come up, please do so.
I
Go ahead,
think
Judge.
that
I'm sorry.
verdict is wrong for all kinds of reasons. But moving on to can black folk work together? The way I look at the problem can be simplified by looking at it this way. Consider all of the brands of cars that you have on the public highways in the United States of America. It just so happens, by the way, that guess what the most common color for American automobiles is? It's white. Guess what one of the more uncommon colors is for American automobiles? Black. So what you're doing basically is lumping all of the black cars together in one category, but they're not the same type brand of car. They don't have the same engine capacities. They don't have the same performance ratios. They're not set up for the same thing. Some are off-road, some are street cars, some are luxury cars, go back and halfway snooze until you get there. Some are limos. So what's going on is we're talking about the unity of all of the black cars on the highways, but all of these cars on the highways are not necessarily cars that can be operated together. Now, what we're talking about is whether we're running them in formation down one highway in one massive block together to get something done. That can happen. Truckers used to do it all the time. But the question is also something that says, do they all want the same thing? And therein lies the rub. And then who is the leadership? Are you going to have an Al Sharpton? Or are you going to get another H. Rap Brown? Are you going to have Don Lemon? Or are you going to have an Isaiah Washington? Are you going to have one of our many athletes? Or are you going to have somebody who is a man of the people who can actually get out and lead somebody somewhere and know what to do when they get there? See, all of these things come to bear, and then you have to deal with the fact that in this group of all black cars, there are people who are driving them who would be happy to get an advantage, and they would snitch on, inform on, undercut, sabotage, pimp out, use, and abuse the rest of the people that are trying to deal with a concerted effort to get somewhere. So, yeah, okay, where do we go? An ideal but practical basis. In order to enforce that, you have to do what people did to get revolutions elsewhere. You had these pockmarked walls that people had to hold up for a short while until they were relieved of the burden. Now, we can't have that where we live, so what are we going to do? There are some solutions, and the solutions consist of real leadership has to assert itself so it can galvanize the group into determining that there is somewhere to go. There have to be assistance in this process to embarrass the members of the group who don't want to go there. But there has to be recognition of the fact that, first off, there's a big fight that needs to happen to determine where we're going to go and who leads. And if you don't understand what that means, go to your local zoo and go to the primate section and watch the baboons and the chimps. They'll show you how it's done. Now, with that, I pass the mic.
Okay, so anybody want to request to come up, please do so. And real quick, before I come to you, Sean, I would say one of the solutions too for Black America, we have to reinvest in the youth. Got to get to the youth now and prepare them for 20 years, 50 years. You have to invest in the youth. That's what China's doing, Russia, all other nations that are part of that BRICS. But for us specifically here, we have to reinvest in our youth, especially the young Black boys. Hey, Sean.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Judge? I wanted to talk about, well, basically say, can Black Americans achieve success together? I mean, it's already research that we have been doing that, so that's already a yes. And we should be directing our, like you say, our youth and all of our people to that research. I mean, previous and current, because it was a previous fight, and it's current people who are actually still putting in the movements or putting in the fight, regardless of the amount of people they got backing them. It's still valuable information and documentation of these people putting in this work, and it's all about judgment when it comes to our people. And Judge, I heard you say that black man deserved to be in a mental institution for being hungry and screaming out loud that he's hungry. And that's even a dog is gonna hungry dog is gonna cry loud. You're gonna hear that hungry dog. And what you're supposed to do is feed that dog or something like that. You ain't supposed to just kill it. And that's what the system would do. They would kill that dog once they receive it. And that comes from a judgment system. And you are a judge. And as far as though with that situation, that white man said that he fought in I believe it was Iraq or something like that. And like, don't you believe that those type of people deserve mental a mental institution before you say that a hungry black man, streaming out, for something, that's rightful, that somebody, all people supposed to deserve to eat, especially in America. And I just want to ask that question real fast. I want to get on to the can we achieve success together also.
Well, I don't want to be facetious, but perhaps you would volunteer to have him stand outside your apartment or your house and scream that continuously over and over again, or break in your front door and stand in your living room and scream it, or when you throw him out, climb up, break in your upstairs window and scream it out to you. Now, that's what it amounts to. Or you've got daughters, let's say they're 13, 14 years old, and they have to ride on this train to a school event or something to go shopping, and they have to put up with it. Or your grandmother is on that train, and she's got to put up with somebody like that screaming in her face. And see, that isn't it. This person's been arrested 40 some times. So how long is somebody supposed to volunteer to put up with this? You see, and remember the old thing that used to happen we talked about when certain generations were growing up and they did something wrong, everybody in the neighborhood jumped them on the way home and then told mom and dad, and they got jumped again. And okay, I'll give you this one. When I was growing up, Tom Bradley, the future mayor of Los Angeles, and his partner patrolled the neighborhood I grew up in. They'd have periodic meetings with the grown men in the neighborhood, and the grown men were told what was going wrong in the neighborhood and got told that Bradley and his partner couldn't take care of them, but if the community men decided to, then the two cops, Bradley included, would give them an alibi when they did it. And things got done and we had peace. Now, that fell by the wayside when Bradley got moved upstairs a bit, got promoted, but there it is. So what do you want? Public peace, dignity, and order where the children can be raised, the grown folk can have a peaceful time, the mothers and the grandmothers can be safe, as are the daughters. So what do you want? And the other thing is, that isn't quite an adequate statement of what he wanted. I'm just hungry. That just happened to be a reflection of his usual situation. And there was much more besides hunger that was driving him. He wasn't all there. Now, when we have people that aren't all there, we have problems and we have to do something to deal with them. When somebody is there, sanity wise or mental health wise, as we judge such things, and they won't conform their conduct to what is required, we lock them up for a while, for a long time. So the question is, what do you do when you've got somebody that's been locked up at least 40 times for inability to conform the conduct and won't quit? Do you want to volunteer for this? Do you consider it just storm and lightning and hail and thunder and cold weather and snow and sleet in your life? Or is it something that you perceive a thing can be done about? That's the question. You have to make the choice.
Okay, I mean, you also have explained that you actually know by coming to Philadelphia, seeing what the federal institutions know how that organization work, and also that you guys actually get a lot of laws adopted from other European white nationalist countries, and you so could I actually say that you are actually on the other side of the black fight if
No,
you are
we're not
actually
on the other side of the black fight because guess what? Every
no,
single
I'm not.
culture
I mean,
on
that
this
wasn't that
planet,
wasn't
from
no
my, wait
that
a minute.
wasn't I
No,
wasn't
no,
trying
no.
to
I
offend
know
you.
you're not trying to offend me, but I'm going to point this out. We're talking about not white culture, not brown culture, not black culture, not red culture, not yellow culture, but human culture. Every collective of human beings on this planet that's ever been on this planet, anywhere on this planet, has demanded the equivalent of law and order, whether it's the chieftain, the chief, the king, the caliph.
I know I was trying to build though, Judge. What you just done to me is actually like I was on a stand. That's how I just
Yeah,
felt.
well, that's
You cut me
exactly what
off
it
and just
is because that's the way life works, son. I'm not trying to get on you personally. It's just life
I know,
is
but I
very
could teach you a thing or two.
well.
Also, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
figure out what how we could actually achieve success
Well,
together.
I dealt with this.
Because
1969, I could buy whiskey and vote. All right. I saw it going downhill. Since then, I've been an adult. I've seen it get worse. I've seen where it is now, and I know what to compare it with because history does repeat itself if you aren't wise to what's going on. And I'm telling you, there are people that you do not want to follow who are put in front of you as leadership, but they're corrupt and they're evil. I'll give you an example. Let's take where I'm running for mayor, Memphis, Tennessee. This is the largest predominantly black city in the United States. 65+% of the police are black. Same thing with the sheriff's department. The chief of police is black, female. The sheriff is black male. Most of the command authority, 80% is black. 65 to 70% of the jury pool is black. 60% of the criminal court judges are black and female. So, just where does this go wrong when we have people around here talking about racism? The majority of the city council is black, the majority of the county commission is black. So, just exactly where is the white supremacy holding anybody down? The problem is all of this black leadership, not invariably, not universally, there are exceptions. Too often they are in place where they want to get rich by essentially stealing from their constituents or helping their friends steal from them. So, what happens here, and that's an illustration of what happens when all you consider is the color scheme, the paint job, when you're talking about leadership, there's a thing called character. So, how do we get to the character, and what must someone demonstrate before you are satisfied that they have the character? How deeply do you have to look into what they do? So all of these platitudes, I've heard these, but it's been 55 years ago. I heard them when they developed. But you see, the difference is between then and now, it's relatively safe now compared to what it used to be. People died all the time for political reasons, where they were just flat out killed as targets for political reasons. And nowadays, it's just a rogue situation that statistically is kind of small on the radar. But today's thing is all everybody's
Judge,
freaked out.
I was about to get to the illegal immigration thing, and
Go ahead.
because that all is involved in a legal matter, with judges and a lot of people got to be on board within the same lines of this country, because here in Philadelphia, like I explained, they are actually establishing 5 stores on one block. I never seen that day in my life. Where they say that these are low income areas where they need 5 stores on each block. But these are Latino type store structures, and they are opening a lot of markets and a lot of things, and I don't know really care too much for the people having theirs, whatever the case may be. But when the government is using this system to actually undermine, our people. And I was in a neighborhood store where I grew up at, which is in North Philadelphia, and Senator Sharif Street. I think he run that section, but it's Latino people who took over his corner store, convenience store, and it's a real hottie Latino in the back. I goes back there, I ask him, for a hot tea, and the guy say, I don't speak no English, clear, and I get into a little situation, ask him, why don't y'all hire Black Americans in our communities? Why would you hire somebody who don't speak English? And we gotta go to school, in order to even get jobs and things like that. They even stopped our youth from going straight into the league from high school, because they wanted them to get certain degrees to be amongst this the American market, which you don't even need that to be an entrepreneur in America. So it's like a lot of this stuff they derailed us. They still stopping us. They still got it in play right now because a lot of our young dudes was taking our parents out of the hood, going straight to the league. So if they letting these dreamers come over here by the millions, which I say, like, these kids, they don't even dream. They can't even like probably explain their dream, but it's going to be most likely their parents' dreams, like the adult Latino community, stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff is like supposed to be taking place with the law. They're supposed to be stopping this right now. And I mean, this really don't even really have to take the politicians for real, for real. Like this is like it's outrageous that lawyers isn't stepping in, like, to give Black Americans their rightful claims, and a lot of stuff should be taking place right now, because when they send a neo-Nazi Mexican through our border and our Black representatives is speaking for that type of stuff, and he's a Mexican, and we've been getting a lot of neo-Nazis from over there where they going through the situation with Russia, and even Russians have been saying they are neo-Nazis, and our politicians are speaking for this. So where does that leave our youth? So we're going to speak to our youth about what? If we got stuff blindside them that we're not speaking about, and for you to judge our people, and we've been facing stuff like that, ain't that enough to make somebody not go crazy? But we're gonna definitely be loud. We're gonna definitely stream. We're hungry.
Well,
We're
let
gonna
me
definitely
ask you a
not
question.
be polished.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
You're young. All right. Now, see, everything you're talking about, most of the people on my generation dealt with firsthand, and our parents dealt with in an even more severe fashion, and the grandparents.
But you guys didn't speak.
Yeah,
You
we
didn't
spoke.
speak.
God
You
damn
didn't.
it. What the hell you call
But
burning
I mean,
down
at the end of
goddamn
the,
America?
I mean, I'm
What
gonna
do
say another thing. I
what do
just
you
want to say
call
another
the
thing.
watch ride? What do you call the ones out there in
You,
Chicago?
you
What do
skip,
you
you
call the
skip, you
ones?
skip, you skip, you skip. You didn't speak for a generation. The
Excuse
80,
me,
the 80
you
babies
do.
Wait,
was
let
skipped.
let
Y'all,
let
Speak
the
on
judge
your own.
finish,
Why
Sean.
do you want
Let
somebody
the
to
judge
do it
finish, and
for
then
you?
you could come and
In
speak. Let him
1980,
speak, and
no
you could speak,
disrespect.
Sean.
I just feel like he feel offended.
in
That's all.
1980, every one of us was well grown. And by the way, you keep blaming us. We're the baby boomers. The first of us were born in 1946. By 1980, hell, we just turned 30 something. So what in the hell have you done? All of you, quit whining and looking for somebody to do it for you. We don't look at you as threatening. We look at you as kind of pathetic and weak. Do something. And you won't do a damn thing except
I'm
ask.
a
You do
invention
not
factory.
ask for
I'm a
assistance.
invention factory
You demand,
for our
son.
people.
You go
I'm an
out
invention
and you
company
take
though.
it. And you do not.
No
And by the
disrespect,
way,
Judge.
do
I'm
you
trying to
know
tell you
what they
what
want
I'm
these
doing.
illegals
Let
in?
him finish, Sean.
You
Then
know
I'm
what
gonna
they
let you
want these
speak.
illegals in here for? Read Article 1 of the Constitution. It says when you conduct a census, based on the census, the primary use is to determine representation in the House of Representatives. And that shall be conducted every 10 years. The last one in 2020 was the first one of the 5 that I dealt with as an adult. I was not asked my citizenship status, nor the status of my parents and how they got that. Now, you know why? Because Article 1 allows everybody to be included in this vote count. Not it doesn't allow, I don't say that, but the way they're trying to construe it now, they want everybody in this vote count. So California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and other places won't lose representation in the House of Representatives where the money gets put aside and put up and spent. Why? They want the representation, but they don't want these people to be able to vote. That's like that thing also in Article 1 that everybody keeps saying the Constitutional calls black folk 3/5 of a human. It doesn't. It doesn't mention black folk. What it says is for purposes of determining the apportionment of representatives in the House, 3/5 of all of those held in either slavery or involuntary servitude shall be counted toward that number. And the other thing was at the time, women couldn't vote either. So you get this thing where you count numbers, but only a select few can vote. That's exactly what they want in California, Illinois, and New York right now. They want the number of people in the House of Representatives to be increased without the people that increase is being based on being able to vote. That's reason one. Reason two is more interesting. The people who come in here illegally can easily be spotted. They show up to work early. They don't take the breaks. They don't take long lunches. They stay extra hours and they work their ass off, unlike their nephews, cousins, uncles, who are already American citizens, who are lazy as hell by comparison. That's what the problem is. So they want a hard-working workforce for the menial jobs that so many people in this system who are legally here do not wish to have, because they've been propagandized into thinking entry-level anything is beneath them. I ain't flipping no burgers for no Mickey D's, man. And they don't get anywhere. And the other thing is, we have everything we need to do what we want to do, but we don't use it. We have lots of investment capitals, but a whole lot of it, and in some cases, 20 to 25% of somebody's disposable income goes into tithes in the collection plates, in the churches. And we get pimped out by pulpit pimps, and our money wasted. Now, there are some good preachers who are more interested in saving souls than in making money, but we got a whole lot of the bad ones too. So let's go look in the mirror and figure out what the hell we want to do. Quit whining about it. Quit asking somebody to do it, and let's do it ourselves. We can do it. Now, I'd be damned if I'm going to follow somebody that says, I want you to line up behind me to beg. I say, give me somebody I'll line up behind so we can go kick ass.
Sean, I'm gonna give you the last word, Sean, before I go to Reggie. And I see you, Math. I'm gonna pull you up. The people who request to come up, if y'all don't have y'all face on these things, I'm a little bit skeptical. So y'all better not be no damn trolls. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. All right. So you say a lot say do what they do. You know, if the agents could do it, if they could come here and do it, they could come here and do it. But it takes faith in your people. You know, and when they present documentation, and I have been presenting documentation, like I have asked, you know, a lot of people, you know, who came up with a Black American invention company, you know, where all Black people should come to each other with our ideas and basically put it through the government, you know, basically to get certain people employed so we can be packaging and making our own, you know, our own product. And that's basically what the agents and them have been doing, preparing for. And I was told by somebody that they are actually working on something that's going to clean up the factory fumes, the pollution, and turn it into clean air. And it should be hitting the markets probably in 12 years, 10 years from now. So, and this is by a white guy, you know, in Kensington. And this is like, you know, they are actually 20 years ahead of us. And I always keep saying this. And I've been presenting things, working on safety products and stuff like that in these projects. And nobody actually wants to help me even promote. You know, and they say I'm complaining. And I'm not doing that but giving out information, because this is nothing that our elite Black people have done for us. Because if they had, it would have been presented. You know, we would have been in control of our own product right now. You know, because a lot of them go out to agents to get it done, get all of our stuff done. Well, that's a whole bunch of jobs for Black Americans. That's a whole bunch of insurance. You know, a lot of stuff that our people will be set for. You know, and the spending power, and be in control of the spending power for our children, the next generations. But you know, I want to know, why is that always a problem? You know, if a black man, I don't care if it's rap, anything, it would be trying to do something for our people, they're gonna basically, our own people is gonna not believe in that, and they're not gonna actually push until they see you do it.
A brief response. I know billionaires, black, white, brown, red, yellow, and son, they don't think like that. That's not how they think. And the black ones that are rich, the white ones that are rich, the yellow ones that are rich, the red ones that are rich, they're ruthless. They know how the rules work. They can navigate the rules. Sometimes they break them. They have also, interestingly enough, more sense of a cause and purpose than most of the people that they exploit do. And you can see that because often when something hits the fan, they're the first to volunteer. So we have to change the way we think. All of that sounds good, but it's still not where we need to be. What going to college for, by the way, is to get you to become critical, analytical, skeptical, reasonable, rational, and logical. That's what going to college does. That's the main thing. It's a way and pattern of thought. And if you want to fit in, okay, being part of a subsistence industry, okay. If you want to be part of a service industry, okay, do the best you can if that's what you do. But that's not going to get it for us, because if you are providing services, it boils down to who you are providing services for and what that accomplishes toward getting your goals and purposes accomplished. Now, that's what we have to do. We have to stop thinking like we do. And if we want to be in charge, we have to start thinking like we're in charge. And by the way, every one of the other colors has a social hierarchy. There are those who are followers and those who are leaders, those who get bowed to and those who don't. Now, that's the way of the world.
All right, I want to go to Reggie and Matt. I just brought him up, and I dropped you down before Matt because your mute button was not on. So go ahead, Reggie.
Okay, I had to get off of that Bluetooth speaker. Sorry for the end.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Reggie, and then I'm gonna come to you, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dana. Hey, thank you, Dana. Thank you, Judge Joe Brown, and thanks to the panel for letting me up. Yeah.
Wait, Matt, you need to press the mute button. You got to mute up, Matt. Okay, there you go.
Okay, no problem. Thank you again. Me and Sean was just on the bill yesterday, and we had a panel. So I understand his passion, and one of the things that I learned about where I'm at, Judge Joe Brown, is I'm in the middle generation of them and the generation for you, under you. And like I said, our last conversation was, and I asked about the revolutionary movement, was that conducive to our people? And to get to jump back where Sean and I was having the conversation was, I was explaining to them, because I'm 52 out here in Los Angeles, I was explaining to them that our parents that came up under that paradigm took that thing serious, and they all fell up into the movement. But there's some things that was implemented, such as, the black exploitation movies and the perception of pimps and drugs and things of that nature. I think that got embellished in our movement, and it kind of took away from the paradigm. And you spoke on that before as well, Judge Joe Brown. And I just wanted to kind of I understand what these youths are talking about, because I work with them and I listen to them, and we build on some things. But I try to tell them that those that went, this route, we had to get the game or the teachings and the knowledge from the system. And then those that went the collegiate route, I applaud our people that went that route, that didn't have to suffer for some of us that suffered moving that revolutionary movement. So I just wanted to throw it that it's just the middle ground that I play, and I hear both sides. And because one of the bills, and I land with this, Judge and Dana, that one of the bills was, did the older generation fail the younger generation? And I digress.
I didn't know you wanted to respond to that, Judge. And before I go to Matt.
Fair enough. And by the way, I was a substitute teacher at Fremont, Jordan, and Jefferson High Schools. I was playground director with two other close friends over at Trinity Avenue Elementary School. I went to John Muir Junior High School in LA and also briefly Manual Arts and then Dorsey High. So I know what you're talking about. So it is what it is. And by the way, when you talk about baby boomers, we're from 1946 to 1966. And people like Jesse Jackson were too early for the baby boomers. Martin Luther King was not a baby boomer. He was too early. H. Rap Brown was not a baby boomer because he was too early. So maybe we're given credit for some things and blame for others that we don't have anything to do with. Like in 1965, the oldest of us were 19 or 18 years old.
Right.
So it's a generational thing. Okay, but I appreciate your remarks. You're right on point.
And real quick, I'm gonna go to Matt and I'll swing back to you, Sean. And I see Michael requested. I'll bring you up. And I just want to say, please, nobody don't be a troll today. And anybody want to request to come up, please do so. We're talking about, can Black Americans achieve success together? How does that correlate with Jordan Neely and Title 42? Or if you want to come up and talk separately about each thing. And real quick about the generations before I come to you, Matt. The baby, Judge Joe Brown generation, you said you're not baby boomers, or are you? No, you're not the baby boomers. Judge, are you the baby boomers?
Mute. We are the baby boomers.
Okay.
But I'm
so
saying
the thing
in
is,
1965, I was 18 years old. The oldest
right. I get all that.
So
wait, okay, I get. Okay, boomers. I don't need another history. I just want to know if you was baby boomers. Well, my point is, the baby boomers, I think we need to start looking at it from this perspective. If you notice, the baby boomers are nothing like their parents' generation as far as public policies. They came in and was like, all right, we don't like what's going on. We're going to tear this shit down. And whatever comes with that, going against the government, right? So why are we, my generation and younger, why are we blaming a generation? The baby boomers didn't blame the generation before them. They just changed it. So I think we need to also get out of this mindset, well, it was your generation that didn't do this or did do this. Forget all that.
Correct.
Go in and change what needs to be changed for the better, for your community and society. So I want to go to Matt, and then I'm going to bring up two other people's. Matt, then swing back to Sean, then Michael, then whoever else.
Well said, Mr.
All right.
Well said.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings, Judge Joe Brown. Pleasure to be in your midst. Pleasure to be in everybody's midst. But I'm going to say briefly, we have to look at what made us great. What makes our people a great and mighty people? Go back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Wilmington. We don't need to integrate into this society. Segregation was beautiful for us. We have to get back to what made us great. Okay? Right now in 2023, there are plenty enough Black people that's making money right now. Young entrepreneurs, old generation and current generation. We have to coalesce our money together, and we will bring this system down to its knees and replace it with justice. And I'm gonna land my plane right there. Judge Joe Brown, peace and blessings to you, my brother. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing.
I understand your sentiments, sir. The only thing is to have actually experienced having a civilian put a gun in your face because you crossed the segregation line. The police get called, they back that up, put the guns in your face. Can't drink at that water fountain or go to that bathroom or go in this place, and your tax dollars are supporting it. It's a hell of a lot different from when you get treated in effect, no dogs allowed, and you decide where you want to go. There's a big difference. Segregation, desegregation are not the same as voluntary integration, but then again, since the last ice age, people all over the world, Africa included, have been attempting to expand their commerce and interactions with other humans, but you have to understand there's a commonality of interest which we can accomplish.
Your Honor, to say, I'm sorry, Ben. I just wanted to add to what Matt, Your Honor, and add to a question. So, Your Honor, do you think separatism was right or wrong or good for us, Judge?
Okay, just hold that question, because
briefly, when it
yes,
was a matter of no dogs allowed or dogs must be on leash, it wasn't cool. That's the way it was. That's the truth of the matter.
Yes, sir.
All right, I want to swing to Sean real quick because he had his hand up before I brought up a new speaker, and then I'm gonna go to Michael, then Tex. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here in Philadelphia, we dealing with Sterling's Act, and it's over past 90 years. We're dealing with the Sterling's Act, and now white people just now finally complaining about this. And far as though, that's what I'm saying. Like you, and as a judge, I mean, and from y'all baby boomers, y'all still judge the Black Americans today after we done experienced so much. Like I say, you hit a dog too much, or you poke a lion in the cage. You know, it's only going to do what it's going meant to do. And that's only a act of nature. And even though we're not animals, but still, you still can't treat us like one. You know. And another thing, far as though, like what could we do, like far as though, like what is the right approach, you know, when it comes to building Black America and building our people? I mean, they have robbed us out of being in control of product. And when it comes to even the drug situation, that you as a judge, and you've seen plenty of cases like our Black men have been derailed far as though with the marijuana situation. And they have turned it into a legal situation where they got a head start because they put our names on the board in a pyramid shape. You know, this is the leader. This is who we get the work to, and you know, and this is where they make the money at. And they got all our faces, all our names to get our game plan. And now they take our game plan and they turn it into a profitable situation for the government or for these entities that work for the government, as I should say, because people say play chess. So now we got to actually expose the entities that work for the government. We just can't say for government. So at the end of the day, now that they turn it into a recreational, you know, as a judge, you already know that Black people recreation, we don't do recreational like white people. We don't party like them. So I mean, anybody can say what they want. We had different selection of recreation. And another thing, they turned that into a system. And still our black men haven't been given a position. And now when it comes to that, you know, how can we work another system? Because I say now it's about the people's interests. So I say if $30 is an eighth, and that's worth $30, and you got 1 million people, that's 30 million in a day. And that's just off of what they're doing now, and that's just light numbers. Now people would like that delivered to them. You know, stuff like, see, we could turn that into a system for our people. You know, because at the end of the day, I haven't heard marijuana killing anyone. But you know, and that's still attached to the our diasporas, which hold the most potent marijuana, most healthiest marijuana. You know, which is from the African diasporas. But that was just another.
1 second. Wait 1 second. Marijuana cannabis. Wait 1 second. Marijuana cannabis is grown in a lab. You're talking about ganja, a plant. You're talking about two different things here.
I mean,
it's hemp.
That's a chemical.
Hemp. It comes from the product.
Okay.
It's a product, byproduct
Okay.
of the plant.
What they're selling on the street and these cannabis stores, marijuana is grown in a lab.
There's plenty of ways you could grow it. I mean, this is the thing that
I do not.
This is became a system.
We're talking about.
No,
I mean,
I'm trying to understand what Sean is saying.
This is a judge.
Discussion is about getting high rather than getting ahead.
No. This is called what y'all been judging us about and putting us in jail for, and now the system is benefiting off of it and getting a head start on us off of what they.
It's like okay,
I see what Sean is saying.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean by they'll judge us so much and don't realize why our people are actually. So give them the 30 million. Give them the 30 million for 1 million people. That's only the million. It's way more than 1 million people who's buying this. But we supposed to just sit back and just let them steal that whole operation from us.
respond, Sean. Then I want to go to
Black folk
Michael.
don't smoke the most reefer in America.
But we
And
supposed to
why
sit back.
are we
But you
worried
a
about
judge that
getting
say we
high?
supposed to stand
And
up and we
why
Hold
supposed to
tight,
do we
hold
just
tight,
support
hold tight,
go
Kamala
Sean.
crazy.
Trump, Queen
Okay,
Hold tight.
relax.
Harris,
You're right.
who
Relax.
had a reputation for giving out the stiffest sentences for simple possession in America? To the black folk, the white folk in San Francisco didn't get even a pat on the back of the hand. Why do we support her? Okay, you do. If the answer is stop ideating on the wrong things. I mean, do you know how that sounds to somebody? Our problem is we like to get high off of a certain kind of drug, and they use that to put us in jail. The question is, how do black folk work
They feed
together
us
to get
dope every
somewhere?
day, Judge.
They
Stop.
don't
Let him
feed you
finish.
dope.
Let him
They
finish.
don't
Let him
feed you
finish.
dope. You smoke it. Nobody's tying you down and injecting you with the cannabis essence. That's not doing that. So we do it ourselves, and we're worried about how come they keep locking us up because we want to get high. Well, okay, fine, recreationally. But how are you going to get ahead if you have any significant time to be high instead of focusing on doing the hard work necessary to get ahead? See, that's where the problem goes in, our ideation. That's not cool.
All right,
The
I'm gonna
other
go.
thing
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
we think in terms of the wrong things. You said they got to give it to us at least 4 or 5 times in there. Son, you don't get anything in the world when you depend upon somebody giving it to you, because he who gives can take away. You have to snatch it. You have to grasp it and seize it and take it. You can't ask somebody for it. And you see, that's what our problem is. You guys are not wild. You are just passive.
Complaining, you're shame blaming and explaining on something that you should just start strategizing and taking. So let me
That's
go
what
to
I'm
Michael.
asking. How can we? That's
All
it's
right,
5
so
You were
seconds.
supposed to figure that out.
All right, Sean,
You're
just
supposed to
No,
figure
they
it
give
out.
us
I'm gonna come.
they give us
Sean,
heroin in our pills and stuff
Sean,
like that.
stop,
They got
Oh,
to
no,
Sean,
they
like stop,
don't. Give
Sean,
me a
just
break.
stop, mute
Come
up.
on, son.
I need to
You're
go to
giving
other
me
speakers, and
another
I'm gonna come back
excuse.
to you.
You're giving
I,
me another excuse, son. They're putting stuff in our pills and stuff. No, it's what
I'll
we
come back
do
to
to
you, Sean.
ourselves.
Sean, just raise your hand. Do not come off the mic. I need to go to other speakers, so just raise your hand. So I'm gonna go to Michael, Tex, Art, Reggie, then Sean. And anybody else want to request to come up, please do so. Go ahead, Michael. Did I say your name right? Michael?
It's actually Mikkel.
Mikkel. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. Greetings, Black family, kings, queens, judges. Can Black Americans achieve success together? Okay, so I'm going to, I want to direct this to my brother Art, my brother Sean. I'm a little bit of a futurist and a visionary. And of course,
No
I'm
disrespect,
here.
but Mikkel, can you like speed up the speed of your talking? Can you make it a little bit quicker? Sorry.
No, I'm just going to land, and I'll talk with them offline. Be well.
Okay, because I think you're specifically going to Sean and Art didn't even speak yet. Thank you. All right, Texwell.
Hello, Sister Dana, Honorable Judge Joe Brown, and everyone here. I told my sister a long time ago, she was criticizing my mom's child rearing strategy. She felt it came short, and she did it in front of her son. I told her, sis, you shouldn't do that, because no matter how good a parent you are, just because your son never got evicted 10 times like we did, just because your son always had electricity like we sometimes didn't, he's going to still think that you fell short, because he thinks it's okay to criticize his mom. So just tread lightly when you criticize the elders, because that same criticism will be visited upon you. And no matter how good you think you did or how hard you fought, if you let your children know that it's okay to dismiss the work of the elders, they will hold you in that same spotlight. People, I was a little boy in the 60s, so I didn't experience a lot of the discrimination, but people say, oh, wow, civil rights wasn't, they shouldn't have been fought. We should have stayed segregated. But you wasn't there to experience what that was like. See, we always go for this either or. Like, we should have had, desegregation, but in that desegregation, we should have had the mindset of building our own community. So that if I'm a doctor and I get to integrate a white hospital, right? As soon as I get the chance, I'm coming back to the black hospitals to train more black doctors, right? And I'm staying in my black neighborhood. I'm not jumping over the train tracks to the other side of town to build up that community with the wealth that I'm building. And that's what it is. It's always an either or with us. And it's never an either or, because we have to use every tool in the tool belt, y'all. Maybe years from now, those of us who are fighting for reparations, when we get into the reparations checks and everything is hunky-dory, maybe our children will say, you guys shouldn't have been fighting for reparations. You should have been fighting for something else. And just be prepared, because it's coming. Thank you for the space, family.
Thank you, Tex. Art, and then Reggie.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna do this in backwards order. I'm gonna address the hemp thing. It's a lot of people look at the thing as, oh, we smoke it. No, you can make hempcrete out of it. You can make clothes out of it. Hemp's one of those zero waste products that you could think. So we can't get hemp licenses. So why are we acting like it's just about smoking? And you can do Delta 8 and not Delta 9, which gas THC, but you can't even get a hemp license. So I kind of do feel Sean on that, and it has nothing to do with smoking. As far as the title, can Black Americans achieve success together? No, because they haven't. It's just that simple. It's not even rocket science. If you go back to the Negro rebellions, there'll be 3,000 people on the plantation. Maybe 20 of them will run away, right? If you go to the civil rights movement, I think it was Rosa Parks that on her deathbed said there was only a few of us, right? They wasn't working together then. Fast forward to the day, people still ain't working together. So, I mean, we just got to be real about history and things. And so I reject the idea of it's being a generational thing, because it happens every generation where they just don't work together. The same question could be asked in any era. Literally, pick an era, you could ask the same question. Then as far as separating being the thing, based on the numbers, we did better. Did people feel more comfortable? No, probably not. But did we do better? Did we have more Black wealth? Yes, that's facts. Did people feel good about that? No, but growth and comfort don't coexist either. So who expects it? When your teeth come in, the shit hurt. When you work out, the shit hurt. You know what I mean? So growth and comfort ain't never going to come together. So I don't understand why people expect it to be comfortable. So I'd have to say segregation was better for us, just based on data, statistics, and math. And so I don't know what people are looking for an achievement. And there's also the idea that everybody has a different perspective of what success is, right? So even if you get success for what 40% of people might actually think, there's going to probably be another 60% or vice versa that's not going to agree with that sentiment of success. So I think the first step should be defining what success is for everybody and come to some kind of consensus on that. Because we have the same Black to white wealth gap as we did since 1968. People couldn't even vote 3 years before that. So really shit ain't happened. Like nothing's changed since 1968 as far as that wealth gap. And poverty is the biggest killer in this country. We know that disproportionately hurt too. So also there's a fact of longevity. You have the birth to death ratio, which is significantly hits whites the hardest. But guess who's number 2? Black people. You know who's striving right now in this particular country? Asians and Latinos. So I mean, it's crazy to me that we don't look at the data and quantify things under the data. We quantify things on how it makes us feel. Do we feel good about it? Well, the data ain't gonna change about how you feel. And so I'll land with that.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.